Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast made by fans like you, for fans like you. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. I'm your host, Joe Kuzma, and we are here, folks. Free agency is nearly here, and the Steelers are already hitting the ground running, signing two of the guys that were on their list as unrestricted free agents. So on Monday, Pittsburgh Steelers reportedly, or officially, depending on the outlet, gave 3-year deals to both safety Robert Golden, who was announced first, and then wide receiver Darius Heyward-Bey. And I have to say that I like both of these deals. They're great values to the team. Robert Golden's coming in 3 years, $5 million. Darius Heyward-Bey is coming in for 3 years, $3 million, roughly $1 million a year. And you look around the league and you look at what some players make, and Darius Heyward-Bey for $1 million a year, I was actually kind of surprised that. It's not expensive. And there aren't very many veterans. I mean, you're looking at a guy like David Nelson, who didn't even get to play last year, and I think he made almost $600K, and he never even stepped on the field. And that's for a year because of veteran minimums and the way the collective bargaining agreement, or the CBA, for those of you who've heard that term thrown around, for the way the CBA works. So getting Darius Heyward-Bey for $1 million a year, that gives the Steelers some depth at the wide receiver position. Gives them depth on special teams, a solid special teams player. And Darius Heyward-Bey is also there as insurance in case, let's face it. Last year, Martavis Bryant, we all know what happened. He had to sit for several games. And if it happens again and he would happen to fail a drug test, he's going to be sitting for a lot longer. He's, if not entirely out of the NFL for a full season. Because when we found out this news last year, we found out it was his second failure. So Darius Heyward-Bey, a lot of people thought maybe he wouldn't be back, offers the Steelers somebody that can be there as an insurance policy. Let's say Sammy Coates, he steps up, looked pretty sharp in the playoffs, but we really haven't seen who Sammy Coates is yet. We know who Darius Heyward-Bey is. We saw him play several times in relief Martavis Bryant. During Bryant's suspension early on in the season, when Bryant got hurt in the Cleveland Browns game, Heyward-Bey has actually been a pretty solid player. He's not Antonio Brown, and I'm not even going to say he's Martavis Bryant, but he is Darius Heyward-Bey. We know who he is, we know what he offers, and I think he brings good value. You also got to look ahead to the future, and Marcus Wheaton has 1 year left on his contract. So with the Steelers signing Heyward-Bey out through 3 years, they're looking at this from a standpoint of third year with Martavis Bryant, 1 year left with Marcus Wheaton. So if Bryant only has a year or two left with the team, I believe he has a 4-year contract. We're looking at Heyward-Bey and Sammy Coates being here for the long haul in case you can't keep one or both of those players. And it's kind of where the Robert Golden situation comes in, because Robert Golden, he could compete to be a starter. And I'm going to say could because we still don't know what other moves the Steelers might make. They still have Will Allen as a free agent, so right now the only guy they really have that could step up and play that position that's signed, sealed, and delivered on that roster is Robert Golden. Solid special teams player, just like Darius Heyward-Bey. When you look at the other free agents, you have Terrence Garvin or Sean Spence. They also play a lot of special teams snaps. So a good core of the special teams unit was actually set to hit free agency. So it's good that the Steelers locked up Heyward-Bey and Robert Golden. But Robert Golden, I feel, does have potential to maybe compete for a starting position. And even if he doesn't, it gives you quality depth at that safety position, which is much needed, because we saw what happened with Shamarko Thomas. And you've heard me say, in my opinion, that Shamarko Thomas can't even play special teams. We've seen him get several flags and just boneheaded penalties for interfering with players trying to receive the punt. I mean, it's the punt returners calling for a fair catch and Shamarko Thomas gets in the way, and it's happened more than once, or just some other block in the back or whatever it may be. It doesn't seem like Shamarko Thomas is a fit anywhere on this team. So the Steelers need somebody they can rely on, and Robert Golden is somebody that they were able to rely on moving around the field. We've seen him play as just a regular defensive back, like an outside corner or even a slot corner at times, and we most specifically saw that in the second half of the first Denver Broncos game, and we also saw that in the Denver Broncos playoff game, where Robert Golden was positioned like a chess piece, used as an extra safety, and that kind of freed up Will Allen. Now, Will Allen, as I may or may not have mentioned earlier in this same podcast, is a free agent. So the only guy you really had back there is Mike Mitchell and no one else on the roster. So Robert Golden gives you another quality player at a much-needed position of depth, and now the Steelers can pursue an extra free agent and or draft pick because they're signing their own players and filling out this roster with guys who know the system and can compete for starting jobs. And that's kind of where I wanted to go with the rest of my free agency rant. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not the New York Yankees. With the way the NFL is set up with its salary cap and collective bargaining agreement, they can never be the New York Yankees, and even the New York Yankees aren't really the New York Yankees that they used to be, but I'm just speaking purely in hypotheticals of fans and other people who think that NFL rosters can be built into all-star teams. And forgive me if I sound like a broken record, because this is just a topic that gets under my skin this time of the year. And you look at, if you're a baseball follower or not, the New York Yankees used to go out and just spend money, spend, open up the wallet, and get all of the top free agents and players that were available and sign them to their team. And you would look and see, well, best player in baseball, let's go get Alex Rodriguez, and we're going to pay him $250 million or whatever it is, a ludicrous amount of money, and we're going to have Derek Jeter, and we're going to have all of these great pitchers, and a lot of that might not mean a lot to you because it's baseball terms, but in football terms, that would be like the Steelers having the players they already have, like Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, several others, and they go out and then they're able to also sign Julio Jones and Adrian Peterson, for example, to some huge contracts, or one of these cornerbacks everybody wants, like a Josh Norman. Okay, we all know that you're living in a fantasy world, but I'm gonna explain it to you the way that I might explain it to my 2-year-old daughter. And the way it works is my 2-year-old daughter, and of course her father, because she doesn't have her own allowance and I only make so much cash. Daddy only brings home so much money, but she's been a good girl, and now we're going to use part of her salary cap to go out to the toy store and buy her a doll. Now, for those of you who are also parents and parents of a young daughter, you're familiar that Disney has Disney princesses. And there are 11 of these Disney princesses in this one doll line that my daughter likes. And we already have a handful of these princesses, but we don't have all of the princesses. And here's the problem. We can't afford to get all 11 dolls. Okay, so when my daughter goes out to the toy store, she can only pick one. And that's kind of the way this works with free agency. And with free agency, you can maybe get one of the Disney princesses, one of the top of the line dolls out of several of the top of the line dolls that are out there. Or you might just hold off and get something from another line, another toy line, some other type of dolls, or maybe you need something else like a toy car, because you know not everything is offense, you kind of build with defense too. So the analogy's kind of running off the tracks here, but if you see where I'm getting at, when you go with that other line, you're maybe not paying the same premium as you would for the Disney name. And that's where the Steelers are going to be sitting as free agency starts. They're going to pursue, they're going to talk, they're going to do their due diligence. A lot of it is also just psyching out the other teams because they know who they can and can't afford and can't get to sign there. And some guys are going to come in and some guys are just going to go. And they're not going to sign with the Steelers for one reason or another. Maybe they don't like Pittsburgh, like the actual city. Might be too cold for them. They want to go somewhere in Florida. More than likely, it's going to be more money. But in some cases, Pittsburgh can offer and say, hey, we've been in the playoffs. We've been deep in the playoffs. We've won Super Bowls. We have consistency here with the coach. This is a stable institution of which you have a chance to compete for a Lombardi trophy. And that's going to appeal to some. And it's going to be very interesting to see where and when the Steelers make those calculated moves. And I think as they sign more of their own guys, it's going to kind of fill out where they're going to go with the draft. And I think they're already in a good position now, having signed a safety Robert Golden. They could still go safety. They could still go tight end. But we still have the gaps at offensive line with Kelvin Beachum and Ramon Foster. And I'd like to get one of those two guys back in the fold so the Steelers can take the best player available in the draft. And that's really what they're positioning for, because if you look at all of the guys that are on the roster currently, most of those guys were drafted and not free agent signings by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that is why you shouldn't get too upset if the Pittsburgh Steelers don't go out to their toy store free agency and pick even one of those Disney princesses.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.